Hello, welcome to today's video. We'll be discussing my IIM Ahmedabad interview experience. So I had attended the interview on 28th Feb 2025. It was in Bangalore and I had the afternoon slot. So I was called for the FABM program, which is a specialization. It's the Food and Agribusiness Management program of IIM Ahmedabad, which is one of the most renowned programs in the world. I think it features very highly on agribusiness programs worldwide. If I'm not wrong, I think it has also featured at number one in many reputed rankings. So, of course, there was the VAT, or in case of IIM Ahmedabad, they often call it AWT, which is Analytical Writing Test. So it's not your usual VAT, it's your VAT with a twist. So you are given a scenario and you're supposed to analyze it, and you're supposed to underline, or rather you're supposed to take note of the assumptions that are being made in the arguments, and you're supposed to present counterpoints. At least that was the question in my case. So very briefly, the question that I was given was climate change, and there were some assumptions about, well, not assumptions per se, but there were arguments about why climate change is happening. And the question was to figure out the assumptions behind these arguments and try to counter them, try to weaken the argument by attacking the assumption, or whichever ways we could damage the argument. And once the AWT was done, which was for 20 minutes, and we were given just a single sheet of paper. So we were supposed to write for 250 to 300 words, and we were supposed to write for 20 minutes, which I think I had an easy time because I've been practicing AWT quite a lot back at home. So I had already practiced around, well, at least 7 to 8 questions. You know, I asked ChatGPT to give me sample questions. You can do that too, and I think it's an excellent tool to get your hand ready. Get your writing up to speed when it comes to AWT, and I think that paid off. I finished and I had like a few minutes to spare. And of course, once you are done with your AWT, they escort you back to the waiting hall, and my serial number was number 3. So I was expected to go back and wait in front of the interview room after half an hour or so. So the average interview length was 20 to 25 minutes. There were, of course, 2 people before me, and I waited for my panel. I think overall I had to wait for 50 to 55 minutes before it was my turn to go and attend my interview. Now, IIM Ahmedabad are very specific about not bringing any kind of document into the interview room. So it doesn't matter what your extracurricular achievements are or whatever you want to show them. If you have mentioned that in their form, they do consider it. But then again, their form has a very high bar. So you can't, so unless you've achieved something very remarkable, you're not supposed to write or mention that. So in my case, I had published a book. I hadn't mentioned that in the form, but I wanted to take that book with me. So I asked the document verification panel if I could take this book with me. And they were like, okay, fine, please take your book. And I took it upstairs. I entered the room, and the panelists were like, listen, please just keep the book aside. You're not supposed to bring anything in. So that was something of an awkward start. I wasn't expecting them to be this, particular about not bringing in anything. And I did tell them, sir, listen, I asked the DV panel. They said it was okay, but they were like, listen, you know what, it's fine, but you please keep the book and have a seat. And as soon as I, made myself comfortable, they began with, tell me about yourself, which played well for me. I mean, I was fortunate because I had rehearsed this answer a couple of times. So I gave them a well-rehearsed, TEMAY, which went on for like a minute and a half. And after that, they started asking me questions about my age, because I am quite old in an MBA sense. I'm already 30. So the questions were a little blunt, so to speak. They were like, listen, you are 30, your colleagues, if you do join the program, would be around 24, 25. How are you going to cope up with them? I don't think you can cope up with these people. So right from the beginning, I was on the back foot and I had to defend myself quite a bit. There was also a question about my profile, because I had taken a few years off to prepare for JEE. I mean, I had taken a year off to prepare for JEE and a few more years off to prepare for UPSC. So they questioned me about these things. They were like, listen, do you think it was worth it? What happened with the UPSC? Did you reach anywhere with your attempts? What do you think went wrong? What do you think you could have done better? Is there anything you learned from this experience of yours? And I think I was able to answer them in almost a satisfactory manner. I had my valid reasons for attempting UPSC, and I had equally valid reasons to quit and just get away or choose a different path to. So I did tell them that I gave them all these reasons, and they seemed fairly satisfied. After that, once they were done with my age and my profile and my UPSC questions, they then moved on to more technical side of things. They were like, listen, you have done biological engineering from IIT Madras, but how do you think you're gonna compare with the courses that we teach here? Have you seen the courses that we teach? Have you been to our website? Which actually I had been to their website, but at that moment I could not recollect and I could not recall the courses that I had seen. So that was a little tricky for me. I actually ended up stammering and stuttering, and I was like, listen, sir, maybe there's this course and there's that course. And then I realized that they kind of were having this feeling that I had not really been through their website. And I told them, listen, that's all I can remember right now. And I mean, fortunately for me, they did not go further down that line, or else that would have been a very uncomfortable afternoon for me. But thankfully, they didn't go down that line. They just said, okay, fine, you know what, it's fine. And then they moved to really technical questions about my academic background, which is biotech. So some of the things that they asked me were, to be very brutally honest with you, some of the questions, some of the terms I had never heard of, although I, of course, am from a biotech background, and I did read up on a lot of biotech literature and research papers back when I was preparing my DDP thesis. That is my final year thesis. But the kind of terms that they asked me, some of them I had never heard of. Fortunately, they did ask me about the Human Genome Project, which I was able to answer satisfactorily. And they also asked me about mRNA, about translation, transcription. So these are pretty basic biotech questions that I was able to answer in a satisfactory and fulfilling manner. And once they were done with the uber technical side of the biotech or my academic background, they then kind of segued to my hobbies, and they were like, listen, fine, what do you do? Is there anything else that you do? You write, you read, that's fine. What are the things that you do? So I told them about my other hobbies. That was another 2 to 3 minute discussion about my hobbies. And once I was done discussing my hobbies, they kind of went back to my banking background, because I have worked in the public sector bank for 2.5 years. So they were like, listen, how is that relevant? What is that bringing to our field? You think your banking experience directly correlates with something, with the education that you'll be receiving at our program? And again, it was a question that put me on the back foot. I had to align whatever I had learned, I mean, not learned per se, but whatever I had experienced working for the bank, I had to realign that and present that to them in a way that made it seem like, oh, well, it has a lot to do with agriculture and it has a lot to do with the program, which it did, to be very frank, which it actually did. So, but yes, that was a question that I wasn't extremely well prepared, but I somehow managed to, talk my way out of trouble. And After that, they started asking questions based on general knowledge, world affairs, current affairs. So the questions that they asked me were, what do you think about China? Do you think China can be trusted? What do you think about these border standoffs that were happening? Do you think China is an expansionist state? What are your views? And then I gave them my views, and they seemed impressed with the answer to an extent. And then they said, listen, what do you think of Make in India? Do you think we can compete with China from a manufacturing perspective? And I had to really dig deep because this was something that I had not prepared. I had prepared the current affairs, I had prepared Indo-China relations and all that, but I had not specifically gone through such a niche view that how could you improve manufacturing in India. So it was an application based question, so I had to draw upon whatever I knew, and I had to come up with 2 points. So I think the first point that I spoke of was upskilling. That is, our labor force needs to be upskilled because only 5% of them are formally trained. And the second point, it actually took me quite some time to come up with my second point because I blanked out in the middle. It was such a tricky question, to me at least, in that situation, that I blanked out. And as I was speaking, telling them my answer, I felt like I was straying, like I was just going nowhere. I was going to run into a dead end. And I told them, sir, can I have 5-10 seconds to just reorganize my thoughts? And they said, fine, you can you can have like 5-10 seconds. Fine, take your time. And luckily, just very luckily, the word MSME just sprung in my mind, and I told them, listen, sir, MSMEs, we should relax the credit facilities, relax, give them more credit guarantees. I again linked it back to my banking experience. I said, listen, I've seen firsthand how these MSME customers, they need a lot of capital, they need a lot of working capital loans. It's a struggle for them to get it from private banks because of the high interest rates. Public sector banks, the interest rates are low, but the process itself takes a lot of time. There's a lot of bureaucratic lethargy that kicks in. So I think once I was done with my answer, one of the panelists, he said, hey, you know what, that's a fair answer. So that brought my interview to an end. It ended on a good note, thankfully and fortunately for me. And that was it. They asked me to grab a toffee. So there was a little jar with a lot of toffees in it. And they were like, listen, Anand, thank you. Grab a toffee and please get going. And again, I thanked them for their time. I grabbed a toffee and I left. So that was my IIM-A FABM interview experience. Now to summarize it, or to tell you guys what you could learn from my, well, I shouldn't call it ordeal, but from my experience, is that the ultimate thing is to be calm, keep a calm head, keep a calm mind, because they will throw you off your game. They will throw curveballs at you, and you will have to deal with them. It doesn't matter how well prepared you are in your subject of expertise, or even on subjects that are not your expertise. Do expect questions, and I think the ultimate key to answering them in a satisfactory manner is to be alert. And if you're not alert, if you're not on your feet, you can't think of solutions in that heated, high pressure, high intensity milieu. So that is one thing that I would tell you guys. Listen, no matter what you learn, it's IIM Ahmedabad. It's the premier B school in the country. Their interview is not going to be a chit chat over coffee and biscuits, right? They are going to grill you, and they're going to do that quite, sometimes quite aggressively, because they want to know if you're the real deal or not. So do expect grilling. Do expect curveball questions, even on things that you think you know very well. They could very easily ask you complicated questions. And most importantly, please keep a calm head. I cannot stress this enough. Keep a calm head. Don't think about the interview. Don't analyze the interview as it is happening. The only thought in your head should be, I've been given this question. How do I best answer this question? So that was it, guys. That was my IIM-A interview experience. I'm really happy to have shared it with you. And please, if you find this video useful, please drop a like, subscribe, and please do share it with your friends who are going for their own B School interviews. And thank you and have a nice day.